To read the Bible in a year, you need 30 minutes to listen or read and 5 days each week. Join us here at St. Andrews for Bible in a Year.
You know, one of the dumbest verses I got kids to memorize through a song was Revelations 21:8. It just...
What is it?
Revelations 21:8, 21:8. Liars go to hell, liars go to hell, burn, burn, burn.
That is the verse?
That's the verse.
And what is the goal of having them memorize such verse?
I don't even remember why we got onto that and why I was like, oh yeah, I can't even tell you where I picked that up from, other than just that was some obscure...
It's like the opposite. Jesus wept.
I know.
Liars go to hell, burn, burn, burn. Wow.
But as for the cowardly, the faithless, the detestable, as for murderers, the sexually immoral, sorcerers, adulterers, and all liars, their portion will be the lake that burns with fire.
Okay, so I realized we didn't have a way to start. That is
Not
what
it.
I was
No.
expecting.
I'm not even saying that is the start, but it was just that icebreaker to get... Okay.
Well, okay. So we're doing Job and Revelation.
And we've just learned maybe don't always trust the youth director to have...
that is the most, I guess, negative Bible verse to memorize I've ever heard.
It's a lot of hellfire and brimstone.
There's a lot more in Revelation than fire and brimstone.
And there's a lot more hope than one verse.
There is. So you want to start with Revelation then? I guess you did.
Hey, I was just lobbing a moment out there.
Well, I'm not sure what we're doing with that. So this is week 51.
Week 51. So we've got one more
51.
week of readings. And then that's it.
Then we're doing a little epilogue.
Yeah, we'll do an epilogue. We'll talk about what's coming next, what our experience has been, and close out Bible in a Year.
Yes. And if you have been reading Bible in a Year with us or listening, if you've been a part of this journey, we are celebrating that journey together in worship on St. Andrews Day, which is October 26th. Great. So please let us know if you've been a part of that and didn't write your name on the list in the gathering area. Let us know and we will make sure. We would love to have everyone involved. So that's what's next first.
Right.
First, we have to celebrate the completion of this. I've never done this in this way before.
I've done the Bible in a year, but again, not like this. And it's been different. I've
only done the Bible not in a year, in semesters as required by academics. So this has been different.
Yeah.
So I can't remember where we stopped in Revelation last week.
So we were right at the... Oh, wow, now I can't remember. I have Revelation 7.
Great. That seems about right.
But I think we did that. I think we talked about that.
Oh, because we were talking about the horses, and I was remembering the horses in Ezekiel, and I couldn't remember where I thought of that.
Right, so I think we're at Revelations 8 then.
Yes, because we talked about the numbers in 7, and then we had all these numbers, 12,000 from each tribe, and then a great multitude that no one could count. So, chapter 8, I love how this opens. The Lamb opens the 7th seal, and there is silence in heaven for a half an hour.
Which just feels incredibly surreal in this place of joy and praise and noise.
Just silence. Like absorbing the moment, you know?
In 2001, after 9/11 happened, where we lived at the time was like 2 miles in a straight line from the end of the Pittsburgh runway. So we always had the plane and the landing and takeoff sounds. And when they grounded everything, there was a surreal silence that fell, and there was a beauty to it that was, again, that horror from what had happened,
Yeah.
but silence. And that's kind of what this feels like.
Yes.
Is that level of silence that is just, you have peace in the moment, but oh boy.
And then, he was given much incense to offer with the prayers of all the saints on the golden altar before the throne. Like, these things remind us that, like, the prayers matter. They are a part of this. And their place in here is really powerful.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of thirds here. So there's these different trumpets, right? A third of the earth is burned up. There's a second trumpet, a third trumpet. And it's like all these thirds, it feels a little bit like plagues, but, it also feels a little bit like uncreating is what I thought of. Because it's like, the sun is struck and the moon is struck and a third of the stars, so that a third of their light might be darkened. A third of the day might be kept from shining. And likewise, a third of the night. That's in 8:12. I don't know. I was reading it. I was like, it feels like it's, I don't know, kind of pulling things apart.
See, I think you have a huge piece in there of the unmaking. Because, where is it? Later in Revelations. 21. Should not be.
All the way at the end?
I should not be in Revelations 21 anymore. You have the new heaven and the new earth. And what is the recreation of, the rebuilding
yes.
and the kingdom that is.
I mean, that's just a beautiful chapter.
Right. And
I think we gotta wait, though, before we go there.
we do, but it shouldn't be losing sight of this is
That's
a
where we're
process. And again, it's that looking at it in hope, and it's in that process. Yeah, there's some unmaking. Why am I blanking on it? Another piece that I equate it to within what is my life experience going through Revelations is childbirth. It's horrifying, terrifying, traumatic, and then suddenly it isn't.
Yeah, it talks about there is this woman, right, and she has 12 stars on her head, and she gives birth to a male child who's to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. But the child is caught up to God and to his throne, and the woman flees. And so there is definitely this, and then there's this like pursuing of the dragon. So in 12:13, and the dragon saw that he had been thrown down to earth. He pursued the woman who gave birth to the male child. But the woman was given 2 wings of the great eagle that she might fly from the serpent into the wilderness. And so it's like the earth is helping this woman as she's being pursued. It's so vivid. It's like you can almost picture it, but yet you're like, what am I seeing? Like, what is this?
But again, that's the beauty and great mystery of what this is, that somehow God is doing a thing that has yet to be revealed.
Right.
And that thing is rooted in hope, but feels weird.
Well, in this, I mean, I feel like 13:10, the last part of it, is really like the anchor of that. Here is the call for the endurance of the faith of the saints. Because, this dragon doesn't get the woman, and so he goes off to make war with the rest of her offspring and those who keep the commandments of God and hold fast to the testimony of Jesus. And then there's the first beast rising out of the sea. And then after that, the endurance for the saints, there's the second. Yeah.
And again, just, it's an age to walk through. With lots of noise. Lots of things that do seem terrifying.
So 9:6, though, if we jump back, connected me a little bit to Job. Because, that experience of Job does feel like it fits well into Revelation. And in those days, people will seek death and will not find it. They will long to death, and death will flee from them.
And this is
9:6.
as the trumpets are being played.
Yes.
So these are reminiscent of even like the plague-like of Egypt.
Yeah, and there's the first woe, and then 2 woes are yet to come. And then there's the refrain, right? In all of this, the refrain is the rest of mankind, blah, 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 did not repent of their works. I mean, we hear that over and over again. That one's in 9:20,
And
but it keeps coming.
And that's even similar to what God is telling Moses. Pharaoh's heart is hardened against me. Mm-hmm. The hearts of the people are hardened against God.
Yeah. Now, chapter 10 has some images that feel, I don't know, a little bit more hopeful in the midst of it. Because there's a mighty angel from heaven wrapped in a cloud with a rainbow over his head. And then he calls out in a loud voice like a lion roaring. But then it's interesting, right? Because here, John's going to write it down, and they say, do not write it down. And so, verse 7 of 10 we get, but that in the days of the trumpet call to be sounded by the 7th angel is the mystery of God. Like, even in this book of Revelation, that one is held as a mystery.
Well, and...
So he eats it.
Right, and John not being able to write it down, he's told to eat it.
Right, he's still going to ingest it. He's still going to...
It will taste good, but be bitter to your stomach.
Yeah.
But I think it helps with what is 11 to understand that. And I was told, you must again prophesy about many peoples and nations and languages and kings. Where it's, okay, yeah, that good news is good, but there's a burden to what is sharing it. There's hope, but there's a lot of fire between.
Yeah, and chapter 11 gives a lot of those images we see in different places. I mean, 2 lampstands, which earlier was representing God's presence, or Jesus' presence.
Well, and even the measuring again.
The measuring, yes. 2 olive trees, 2 witnesses, no rain. We can remember all those periods where prophets had droughts. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it flashes back to heaven in these points, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 11:16, and then again, the 24 elders who sit on their thrones before God fell on their faces and worshipped God. And that's this whole book, right, is trying to turn us to also be these people who worship God in the midst of the world literally being unmade.
Well, and just, verse 19 with how it ends. Then God's temple in heaven was open, and the ark of his covenant was seen within his temple. And in the midst of that moment that is heaven revealed, there's still terror, but again, where are our eyes fixed? Mm-hmm. And I think that's what that's calling us towards. Where, again, as these things are happening, where are we looking? Where are we focused?
Yeah.
Because it's easy, and I think even Elijah did that, where he lost sight at different points.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And that's what this is kind of...
Elijah also thought he wanted to die.
Yeah.
And then God sent him some food and had him take a nap, and he felt better.
Have a Snickers bar, take a nap. See me in a minute.
That sounds good. Let's do that.
At this point in my life, I've had enough crises through history. I would like a nap and a snack. I don't need a midlife crisis. But, yeah, I think that's what that challenge is and what these glimpses are. You have what is terrifying and then a glimpse of heaven. You have what is terrifying and a glimpse of God's work.
And then it goes right into 12 we just talked about, and those birth pangs.
Right.
And the birth pangs are clearly talked about in verse 2. She was pregnant and crying out in birth pains and the agony of giving birth. I mean, Revelation is the agony of God trying to give birth to a new heaven and a new earth.
And that's the piece that it feels easy to lose sight of.
But that is the peace that is hope, right?
Right.
And if we are not able to hold on to the hope,
We'll turn our eyes.
we shouldn't be reading the book.
This is true. Yes.
Which reminds me of like the never-ending story, right? Like you weren't supposed to read that book under certain circumstances.
I keep meaning to watch that with the kids. We have not done that for
They
a
haven't
while.
seen it.
I
Oh,
think we did once when they were
such
wee little.
classic 80s
Yep.
movies. So great. See, what I have underlined here is, lots of things. Of call for the endurance of the saints here again in 14. And then 14, how it ends, blessed are the dead who die in the Lord, that they may rest from their labors and their deeds follow them. And I mean, those are words we say at a graveside. That we remember that there is a blessing in death. There is a blessing in life. If we, from Romans, if we live, we live to the Lord. If we die, we die to the Lord.
And
So then whether we live or whether we die, we are the Lord's. Like, who are we is a huge part of this.
And that hope of what is heaven bound in death is what we have to cling to. I mean, that is a huge piece of what we walk with at the depth of grief, but at the height of faith.
Yeah. So then there's the harvest. When we hear those images in the gospel, right? The harvest is plentiful and the laborers are few. And here we have, this is it. This is the harvest. And so he who sat on the clouds swung his sickle across the earth, and the earth was reaped. And it's so funny because that's such a positive image in the Gospels. And here I'm like, is it? I don't know. I don't know what to think anymore.
That one's a bit tough.
It is.
I mean, the harvest was reaped, the grapes were thrown in, and it's the wrath of God, the winepress of the wrath of God.
Yeah.
That's not comfortable.
Well, and I think this is where it is helpful for me to remember that this is the revelation given to John, the disciple whom Jesus loved. Like, that is how he defines himself. But yet, even the disciple that Jesus loved knows that God has wrath. And there are times we need God to have wrath, right? I mean, God says, vengeance is mine. And there are moments we live into that. As long as it's only applying to people we don't like. But that's not how it works, right?
Oh, see, now that's interesting, because I feel like my space in that has been trying to live into the surrender to that. Mm-hmm. That it's okay. Vengeance is mine, says the Lord. And
but it really happens is the thing. We sort of are like, that's all we needed, right? Was just to surrender.
Right, and it does not
That's
happen
not
the way
it.
I always want it to. Then that wrath is, again, trying to make a product of what is.
And that's what we see later in 15:7. And one of the 4 living creatures gave to the 7 angels 7 golden bowls, full of the wrath of God, who lives forever and ever. So the wrath of God also has to go somewhere, and it's a part of who God is. It is not comfortable. But yet when we surrender that vengeance is mine, we entrust to God justice. And justice is important. We can't just gloss over it.
Right. And I think it's actually even important how that ends. And the sanctuary was filled with smoke from the glory of God and from his power. And no one could enter the sanctuary until the 7 plagues or the 7 angels were finished. And just again, that this is in God's hand, even with that wrath.
Yeah.
But that wrath is always based in justice.
Because again, there's 16, the 7 bowls of wrath go down, and we see in verse 9, they did not repent and give him glory. Like, that is what we're created to do. That is what God continues to give us space to turn, to worship, to seek God instead of what we want.
And he's always seeking for us to turn.
Yeah.
He's not seeking our destruction. He's seeking And I think that's the beautiful words of what happens at the cross with Jesus and the two others. You know, today you'll be with me in paradise. This is what
Yeah.
Jesus is seeking.
Mm-hmm. But there's also the judgment.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, we always talk about the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, you know, that has Adam reaching for God, you know, in this teeny bit of negative space, right? But if I remember right, the back wall is Michelangelo's The Judgment of Christ.
Okay. Yes.
On the huge back wall there.
I think you're right. And I think Michelangelo originally painted that with them, with God and Adam touching
Oh, yeah,
figures.
yeah, that's Michelangelo for sure.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then they wanted it changed so that they weren't touching, so you have that negative space.
Oh, I don't know if I heard that.
I think.
I also remember being in an art history class and someone talking about how amazing it was God and Jesus were talking, and my sister happened to be in the class as well. And she lasted about 10 minutes, and then she just lost it. She's like, but they're not touching! So, yeah, it's interesting. So that's where I got to this week. I got through 17. And we're here in the midst of this. And it's this process, right? I mean, I do think remembering the birth process is really helpful, right?
Yeah.
The birth process is unknown length.
Yeah. Okay, so everyone's story is different.
Right.
I'm a guy. I was outside observer on all of this. And it's intense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is.
And everything changes. There's the moments of pain and terror, but then there's, what is that child? That life, that hope.
Yeah. So Revelation continues moving towards a new heaven and a new earth, written by the disciple whom Jesus loved. So who are we in the midst of this? And we'll also live in a world that sometimes feel like it's being unmade. But Revelation reminds us that God is in the midst of it always. God never abandons creation.
And he's doing a work that is restorative.
Doesn't feel like it, but it is.
And we'll get to that point where it's, oh, it is. We'll get there. Because you have those last two chapters.
So Job, if we jump back, this is sort of an individual's perspective, right?
Yes.
We have this huge cosmic universe perspective, which goes very much with this book my son wants me to read every night about the universe. Learning a whole lot about how to try to say things like, well, I know how to say pulsar, but there's all sorts of things where I'm like, can I guess here?
Quasars. Those are always the one that trip me up a bit.
Quasars. Last night it was like something with like these huge cluster of stars, and it was like Galveston clusters or something like that. Yeah, see, I'm not remembering it right. In my dyslexic view, I'm remembering a couple of the consonants, and like, what were those vowels? So, but Job is sort of this individual one. And this week I read from 4 to 27.
Okay.
So, because I was a little behind last week. So I got through most of the friends, like the part where they start talking, which doesn't, it really would have been better if they'd just gone for the sat in silence with Job. That was good.
It all goes wrong once they start talking.
But it happened, like, it's this wrestling, right? It's these questions of hope.
Right.
And it feels like this big question of, like, what people deserve. And, like, we say that to each other all the time, right? Like, you deserve better. And it's like, oh, wow.
But do we?
Yeah? Right?
And you know, not self-flagellate.
Right, not like to demean ourselves in the same sense of, like, also not to push ourselves up. Like,
there's got to be a good balance.
there needs to be a good balance.
And Job doesn't deserve the best, but doesn't deserve what he's getting.
Right, and he keeps asking, like, if I could just talk to God, he could explain this to me. I'm happy to repent of all of these sins I am unaware of.
But we even see, and this is maybe even a statement of the condition of Job's heart, we talked about this earlier, where he is trying to be so pious, he's even going and making sacrifices for his children's sin,
Right,
as
yes.
they continue without changing their ways.
Right. And so then there's also, so there's all these tensions I was finding as I was reading this. The question of hope, the question of what we deserve, and how other people tell us what we should deserve. God's action and inaction. And we can't just say that God was not a part of this because God
He was very much an active part at the beginning.
Very uncomfortably.
Yeah.
It also felt like there was this tension between wisdom and wealth.
Oh, yeah, okay.
As I was reading through the conversations between the friends, and this struggle of holding on to faith and trust, especially trust in God, when life is an unrelenting force that seems against us. So those were sort of themes that I said to right at the beginning as I was reading through all these things. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm getting.
Huh.
And so 417, how can mortal man be in the right before God? Can a man be pure before his Maker?
With the sin that is original sin that permeates through everyone? No. Not without Christ.
Yeah. And here again, I mean, this is Eliphaz who's speaking. I think, yes. I tried to write down who was speaking as I was going. Yeah, Eliphaz is 4 and 5. And so Eliphaz talks about, can mortal man be right before God? He's basically saying, you have to have done something. But the way Job is written is Job didn't.
Job is blameless.
So it's like, even a blameless person, life can fall apart. And then 18, Eliphaz also says, like, for he wounds, but he binds up. He shatters, but his hand heals. And that concept of God, like, that resonates. So it's like some things the friends say resonate, and some things you're like, killing me here.
And that piece you should actually cling to for when, not Jesus, wrong book, when God steps into the conversation, because that's even along the lines of what he is saying.
Right.
Who is it who is?
But God doesn't get into the conversation until next week.
No, that's... This is all of the friends' replies.
Yeah, and Job replies, right? And it's, oh, that I may have my request, and that God would fulfill my hope. You know, which makes you go like, well, what is his hope now? That's verse 8 of 6.
Well, and so I love 24 of 6. Teach me, and I will be silent. Make me understand how I have gone astray. How forceful are upright words. But what does reproof from you reprove?
And he's clearly feels like a response to Eliphaz.
Yeah.
Directly as they go back and forth. And Job keeps going, and he talks, 7:4. When I lie down, I say, when shall I arise? But that night is long, and I am full of tossing until dawn. My days are swifter than a weaver's shuttle, and come to their end without hope. But then 7, remember that my life is a breath.
17, what is man that you make so much of him, and that you set your heart on him?
Yeah. And that seeing, 19, how long will you not look away from me? Like, do we want to be seen by God?
Sometimes a little less. But at the same time, there's that element of being known by someone who probably knows me better than I know me.
Yeah. And I think it feels like that's what Job's longing for. Like, I just need to talk to God. Which is a huge thing to ask for, right? Especially in this Old Testament period.
That is no small thing.
Yeah. So chapter 8, Bildad, starts right out. How long will the words of your mouth be a great wind? Did he just call him a windbag?
Kind of. I think so.
It's
He
not
had
cool.
2 chapters of monologue.
Well, but he's the one lamenting. He gets to talk.
I think it is fair to look at Bildad and apply that, you know what, we all have that friend who in the depth of grief,
Is a know-it-all?
you just want to murder. Know-it-all's probably a better way, but it's just, can you go away now?
So as Job answers, though, I love some of these. And, you know, I mean, he does say, okay, truly I know that it is so. But how can a man be in the right before God? I wish to contend with him. And then in 4, God is wise in heart and mighty in strength. You know, who alone has stretched out the heavens. Like, remembering who God is as he tries to seek to understand, like, who he is. 11, behold, he passes by me, and I see him not, but I do not perceive him. So that seeking is there in the midst of it, too.
Verse 14, how then can I answer him, choosing my words with him? Though I am in the right, I cannot answer him. I must appeal for mercy to my accuser.
Yeah.
And even in this is one of the areas I do feel for Job deeply, because he's not entirely misaligned with God.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even that section there, because when God shows up, he shows up.
Yeah.
And answers, but it just...
Yeah. I mean, 10, he continues, I loathe my life. I hate my life. And, you know, have you eyes of flesh? Do you see like a person sees? Are your days like the days of man? And you search for my sin, although you know that I am not guilty. And out of context, right? You could be like, well, of course you're guilty. But this book says he is blameless.
Starts with that.
And so that, like, right there, he's like, you know, it almost feels like someone on death row who's like, I'm innocent. And everyone around assumes that you just can't accept it.
There's a great book on that. Minor side trail. The Sun Does Shine. It's a really good book. But, yeah, it just... I think the other aspect of it is Job also gives us the ability to see that the depth of despair that we can experience at different points in our life or even walk through.
Yeah.
We're not alone. This is not just bound to our time. This is timeless. And 10, towards the end of it, where Job is just bemoaning even the day of his birth and, oh, that I had died instead.
Mm-hmm.
It's, okay, we're not alone. There's hope, even if it is in friends who are sometimes the worst.
Right. But that suffering is also a human experience.
Yeah.
One we all want to avoid, but it is where we need to hold on to our faith to get through it. And that's Revelation, right? The endurance of the saints.
And life doesn't give us a guarantee of happiness and all good.
Yes. And nor does faith. And
No.
I think people confuse that a lot. You know, like, if I am faithful, I will have a good life. And I think that is one thing the Bible and the Air can teach us. That's not how it works.
Well, and Job, again, he has faith.
Right.
But that faith is being tested. That faith is walking through.
Yeah.
You know, back to Bildad, and one of the things he says, can papyrus grow where there is no marsh? Can reeds flourish where there is no water? Can faith grow where it has no element to be used, exercised, and
Yeah.
to pause and say, I trust God. This is hard.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to walk in faith.
Yeah. And then the friend says,
So far?
yeah, in chapter 11:6, know then that God exacts of you less than your guilt deserves. My only comment there was, wow.
And you're a jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Job replies, 12:4, I'm a laughingstock to my friends.
I miss that. I feel like that's a memory verse I should memorize.
Hey, I think you could choose a different one.
Youth director bad memory verse picks. Got it.
Yeah.
But 13. 13 starts walking in a little more of hope and in that exercising of faith.
Mm-hmm.
Where Job feels like he's digging a little bit deeper.
Yeah, he is. And, you know, to his friends, he's like, oh, that you would keep silent, and it would be your wisdom. But behold, 13:1, behold, my eye has seen all this. My ear has heard and understood it. And 3, but I would speak to the Almighty and desire to argue my case with God. And then 15, I guess you need first. Though he slay me, I will hope in him. Yet I will argue my ways to his face. This will be my salvation. That it's there. That salvation is between him and God. Nothing else.
It does feel like the friends have gathered around him in this low moment.
Yeah.
To almost finally be able to say, we knew you were a horrible person.
Well, okay. I'm just going to say, I think it's a little more complicated than that, right?
Yes.
Because they do come and just sit with him for silence for 7 days, right? Wasn't it 7 days?
It was 7 days, which is an amazing thing by itself. So yes, they do some good. And then they start speaking, and their hearts are revealed in ways that are complicated.
Definitely. Not going to defend the friends. But I'm going to turn it around in that, we are like the friends too when we are weary of someone. Like, how often do we have someone who comes back with us the same thing over and over again, right?
Yes.
And we're just like, come on.
Raise teenagers.
No.
You're 7 years. No, less than 7 years.
Until next month, I am less than 7 years. No, more than 7 years.
Okay.
He's still 6.
Oh.
Still 6.
Yeah, okay.
I can wait. See, and this is where that wisdom and wealth thing came in for me. It started coming in some of what Eliphaz was saying. So 15:2, should a wise man answer with windy knowledge? Again, really not cool, calling him a windbag.
Have you missed the past 5 chapters? You're all getting a little windy.
And fill his belly with the east wind. This sort of... And Job answers Eliphaz, I've heard many such things. Miserable comforters are you all. Like, yes. Shall windy words have an end? And then 16:12, here's the truth of it, right? I was at ease, and he broke me apart. We get to hope as we move into 17. Again, we have that longing for death. My spirit is broken. My days are extinct. The graveyard is ready for me. And then 15, when there is my hope, will it go down to the bars of Sheol? Shall we ascend together into the dust? And I honestly didn't find anything worth talking about in what Bildad said in the next chapter.
So, out of 17, though, yet the righteous holds to his ways, and he who has clean hands grows stronger and stronger. But you, come on again, all of you, and I shall not find a wise man among you.
And then 19, we have all this language of estranged, right? He's put my brothers far from me in 13. My relatives have failed me. The guests in my house and my servants count me as a stranger. I call to my servant, I have no answer. My breath is strange to my wife. So all of these things. And then we get to 23. Oh, that my words were written down. Oh, that they were inscribed in a book. For I know that my Redeemer lives. That hope in a Redeemer. And at the last he will stand upon the earth, and after my skin has been destroyed, in my flesh I shall see God. Like that is his hope.
Right.
And it's like, what is our hope? Is that what our hope is in? Or is our hope is in this part back here where I was at ease?
Yeah, that's actually a great ending question for What is Bible in a Year as we're finishing out. Of what is our hope? We just spent a year going through a book of hope. We're going through the last two books that are asking that question.
In really difficult circumstances.
Right.
And like that is really where you find it.
You've had this foundation of faith. Where's your hope?
And how do we know that's what we hold on to?
It's hard. We have to dig deep. And again, it's only through testing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where Job is leading me in this. I mean, all these themes are really what pull me towards it. That, we have this struggle of faith and trust in God. And I think in the everyday, and then in the moments where the places we are at ease are broken apart, and are gone. And then it's like, where do we grab for our faith, or do we blame God?
It's easy to blame God and
It
walk.
is.
It's harder to...
And it's easy to buy into this, well, you deserve better. Like, well, what does that mean? I think that's a question we need to wrestle with. And yeah, to consider, where is our hope? Like, what do we really look for in the day and hope for? And it's not just in a grand scheme, but like in the every single day. Where is the hope?
Big and small. I mean, it's something that we have to choose. And there are days that it's easy and days that it's tough.
Yeah. So in contemplating Job and Revelation, I think we seriously need to ponder in our hearts, what is our own hope? And it's, I have to say, this week it's not about peace. It's about faith where there isn't peace. There's one more week to see where God's word leads us. May it truly be God's word that leads us.
Amen.
Amen.